Welcome to Stay Sparked. On this show, we explore how to stay inspired in the modern world through the most profound lessons from Burning Man, relationships, entrepreneurship, psychedelics, spirituality, travel, and more.
On today's episode, we talked about alternative healing and how it is becoming more mainstream and different modalities and where we can find them, and maybe touching on some of the skepticism that some of us have in getting to those places.
We also talk about our own personal journey with many different modalities of alternative healing, from crystal therapy to red light therapy to Reiki and so much more.
Yes, and what do we need to do to kind of set ourselves up to receive the benefits that these alternative healing methods have to offer us?
Enjoy the episode. Welcome to Stay Sparked. We are three friends here to share conversations that aim to inspire and light you up. Thank you guys for listening out there. If you've been enjoying these conversations, we absolutely appreciate you leaving us a rating and a review on Apple Podcast, and please share to help spread the sparks. I'm Betsy.
I'm HALCYON.
And I am JANUS.
I am the creator and founder of the Power Affirmation Project, as well as a holistic healing practitioner, sharing many different modalities to uplift and inspire and teaching skills for sustainable happiness.
I am the author of Love More, Fear Less, Float More, Steer Less, and the host of the Hug Nation YouTube channel.
And I am the founder and CEO of NuWorld Nutritionals, a nutritional supplement company focused on mushroom-based supplements that help you achieve a healthy state of mind.
We always love starting these conversations with gratitude. So, Halcyon, what are you grateful for this morning?
I'm feeling grateful for old friends. I got a chance to gather with a group of guys where the new kid in our group, we met 20 years ago, but the oldest friends I've known 45 years. And there's just something so magical about the level of shared experiences and witnessing people go through these journeys. And there's just this level of unconditional love amongst friends that you've just known so long. So I'm grateful for longtime friendships.
That's amazing. I love that so much.
Nice.
Beautiful. How about you, Janus? What are you grateful for today?
I am grateful for, I guess, just trust and connection, and finding myself at the end of last week in a somewhat crunchy place in a few different areas of my life, and kind of having the trust that things will work themselves out as long as I hold myself open to that possibility, and finding that that is actually how it unfolded and transpired. Like, there's always this, like, often there is a need or a drive to fix things, and sometimes you just have to let things be. And I had the trust to just let things be and just let them unfold how they're going to unfold. And things kind of sorted themselves out without me having to do a lot of work to make that happen. So, and having the trust to do that was something that is some wisdom I've gained through the years. So I was happy to see that come to fruition. So having trust in life is something that I'm grateful for today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I will share my gratitude for my body's resiliency and for my health. Oftentimes it's more gratitude comes when we get sick. And so I am coming out of a portal, I'll call it. I got sick last week and got knocked down pretty hard. You might even be able to hear a little bit of my voice. But I am really grateful that I have been able to really utilize all my tools to be able to rebuild my body's strength and resiliency, and to watch how giving myself the rest that I needed and tending to the things that my body was asking for is really helping me to come through and to ride it out in the most graceful way. So I'm really, really grateful to be on the other side and feeling really healthy and get to be here with you guys today.
Nice.
Isn't that the way that you get knocked down and suddenly you remember how good it feels to be standing up?
Yes. I
Yep.
know. Don't take our health for granted.
Right.
Yep.
Yep, absolutely. Well, it's kind of perfect because here we are. The topic of today's Sparked episode is really all about healing and alternative healing. And what is that? And what is our relationship to alternative healing? And so I'd love to start us off with a question. So why don't we start with you, Janus? I'm curious about your own personal experience with transformational healing or alternative healing. Have you experienced that? Do you have perspectives to start us off?
Sure. And I feel it's also important to start off with the acknowledgement that there's several types of healing that we're talking about or referring to, whether that is physical healing, emotional healing, mental healing, spiritual healing. It's there's all sorts of different ways to go about that, and some definitely leads into the other. And I think my first real experience with alternative healing would be with body work and massage and things like that, which has definitely gotten acknowledged as being like essential for most of us. But there was a time that I remember where that was really looked at as an alternative mode of healing, and a lot of people are like, oh, okay, you're getting your body rubbed down or whatever. But and there's definitely levels to that, and there's definitely levels of skill with practitioners. But when you find the right person for that, it can go beyond the physical and into the emotional and spiritual things, as spiritual realms as well. But just with body work, feeling like not only am I working out like my muscles or joints or whatever, but like removing blockages, which like energetic blockages, like kind of just working with like getting removing a blockage that helps you to feel lighter about whatever it is you're processing at that time. And there's a lot of practitioners who don't necessarily talk about that, but that's also kind of part of their thing, kind of on the down low. And so I've gone into massage, just looking for massage, but definitely also afterwards feeling lighter about a situation that was going on in my life, and realizing without it being told or even advertised by the body worker that I was with, I was like, wow, I feel so much better about this thing now. And they're like, oh yeah, that was kind of the thing on the on the down low as well. So that was my first experience with effective alternative forms of healing, so to speak.
Amazing.
So
Yes, yes, yes.
yeah.
I think it's
Yep.
it's interesting, and you're so right that things that were just a few years ago were not considered healing are now absolutely accepted. I was at dinner with my dad last week, who's 81, and we asked him, what are some of the weirdest things that he believes in, and he's like, nothing. I don't believe anything alternative, and I'm like, well, but you do, like, after you had some health scares, you now meditate, and you get acupuncture and which 5 years ago, I think there's no way he would have done that. But it's like the medical community has now taken these things that were once in the realm of like super alternative and said, no, these actually are clearly work. And so his, cancer doctors were like, these are the things that you should do if you want to be healthy, is things that 5 years ago would have been whispered about. Or it's like, okay, you should probably be getting acupuncture, but don't tell the insurance company.
Mm. Yep.
So true. I know, and it's so funny because acupuncture in particular is has been used for hundreds and hundreds of years, if not longer,
Mhm.
thousands
Right.
probably.
And I
Hmm.
think I'd like to just jump in that so I am my father's son, and I did have a long history of skepticism in my life. And I remember when I was graduating from college, I was in psychology, and I was looking at things like the Naropa Institute and Esalen and these kind of sort of alternative healing places. And my professor, my guide, was like there's some really beautiful things on the fringes, but you need to know that once you cross the line out of kind of the mainstream, there's a lot of charlatans. There's a lot of stuff out there that you just never quite know where they're coming from and if it's real. And unfortunately, that kind of stuck with me pretty hard. So I have been working from a pretty skeptical very mainstream sciencey headspace for a long time, having little experiences here and there. But I think that perspective itself has hindered not only my ability to try things, but even when I do try them, kind of clouding my ability to see and feel what was happening. And so I'm really grateful that I'm kind of in a chapter now in my life where I'm eager and hungry and open to these things. So as we are discussing this, I'm jotting down notes, and I'm excited to hear your experiences. And I'm so grateful to have people in my life like you guys that have a more grounded experiential history with healing that at one time was really outside my acceptable range. So thank you.
Yep,
Absolutely.
absolutely. Yeah, it's been a journey for me because, I went to massage school when I was 22. And when I signed up to go to massage school, I thought I was going to learn how to rub bodies, which, essentially that is what I was going to learn. And I learned so much more. It opened up this whole other world for me to see beyond just the rubbing of tissues, right? I, of course, learned a lot of the physical stuff and learned anatomy and just how the body works and movement and all of that. But also, I started learning about energy, and I also started to learn all these other types of modalities like acupressure and craniosacral and energy healing and crystal therapy and sound healing. And it just opened my eyes in such a profound way that it absolutely changed my life. And in that experience of going to school for it, I got to experience a lot of it, right? So I got to receive so many different types of modalities from that curious mindset, right? So I love that you're speaking to your skeptical nature. But it's very healthy. I think it was like the fifth agreement, right? The
Mm,
four agreements,
mm,
but the fifth agreement is healthy skepticism. So that is a good thing. And I also had that going into it, but also curiosity, and had the privilege of getting to have so much hands-on experience that I started to see that this stuff actually works. And it's been a journey. So that was, gosh, almost 20 years ago. Yes, I'm aging myself. Um,
Do you
but it's
remember?
been a really
Do you remember something that that happened to you, or some treatment where you're like, whoa?
yeah. Oh, yeah. I remember I was in a class for crystal healing. And back then I was kind of like, what's the deal with crystals anyways? I was like, these are rocks. They're awesome. They're so pretty and I'm so attracted to them, but how do these people know what they do? And there's all this information about them, but I was so curious around it. And so I took a class, and I was in this class, and I had crystals on me, and the student was working on me, and all of a sudden, I saw my body from above, and I was floating, like on the ceiling. And I was like, "Oh, this is weird." And then all of a sudden, I saw the teacher walk over, and she put a black stone in my hand called hematite. And she told the student, she was like, "Oh," she puts the hematite in my hand, and all of a sudden, it was like, gunk, dropped right back into my body. And she goes, "Yeah, you got to be careful. Like you got to, did you just see her leaving her body?" He's like, "Oh, is that what was happening?" I was like, "Oh, wow. Okay."
Wow.
So that was probably like the first time I had ever experienced a really profound spiritual experience in a healing session.
mm.
Wow, that's
Yeah,
amazing.
that's yeah, I've got a number of crystal stories I could share, which we could do another time, with not really having any sort of thought or belief about crystals, but seeing them in action and then learning afterwards, like, oh yeah, that's for that. And I was like, oh,
I
okay,
wonder.
interesting, yeah. But there was one time where a girlfriend of mine who was a body worker, she was, and this is kind of the beginning of my own experience with alternative healings. We were in a group session just hanging with friends, and she put her hands on a friend of ours, like on his back, and both his like calves and hamstrings immediately like cramped and like seized up, and his legs just bent. He was like, ah, and she was like, oh shit, a whole bit. And she was like, oh, I'm so sorry. Da, da, da. I was like, God, what was that about? And like she had just put her hands on him. And then coming to find out, like there's a whole like meridian that runs along, like energy meridian, that if you are, if your hands are warmed up or whatever, like you put them on, and that is a potential thing that could happen. And realizing like, oh, I could touch somebody here, and that affects like the extension of your limbs, and all you're doing is touching. That was my first one of my first like moments of being like, wow, there is something to this whole like energy and meridian through the body that is very much a part of like acupressure, acupuncture, body work, as well. Like there's a lot of that stuff that goes into that, which is really not acknowledged by Western medicine, that there's any sort of energy lines within the body that can be accessed or healed, by just via touch, or whatever modality you're looking into. So that was my first kind of awakening to that, when it comes to body work. And I have had some experience with like things like, and maybe Betsy could speak to this, as far as things like these crystal mats, or these crystal biomats, that you can lie on, and to kind of help you with relax, or releasing stress, or a number of other things. And having, whether it's like an amethyst biomat or a jade biomat or something like that, that's also potentially heated as well. So there's all sorts of things that I have experienced in the healing journey, that I found some real good success with, and real good results with. So.
Yes, I use heated crystal mat pretty much every day, especially in the winter. But what it's doing is it's using infrared to heat up the crystals, and then the crystals emit that negative ions.
Mhm.
And the heat, of course, is great for circulation, right? And so circulation just has a whole slew of benefits, right? And it's just also really deeply restorative and relaxing, and helps just on so many different levels. So yeah, I would consider those kinds of things of your own biohacking alternative healing modalities, right? And your own self-healer.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I use too for my healing practice is red light therapy,
Mm.
which is different than infrared. Red light therapy produces a spectrum of light frequencies that is red, and it helps to bring cellular renewal. It helps boosting mood. It helps with so many different things. I mean, it's something I do almost daily for the last couple of years, and it has really helped me to just feel good, especially in the winter. Again, it's like when there's not as much sun.
Mm.
So.
So real quick, not that we have to get all deep in the weeds about it, but I'm curious as to, is that something that the red light therapy, is that something that you absorb that through the skin, or is that a visual thing, or is it both?
Both.
Both. Okay.
Yeah.
All
Mostly
right.
through the skin. Yeah, it
Okay.
helps with skin as well.
Mm-hmm. All right.
And muscle repair, and yeah, healing. It's really great for any wounds or injuries. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One thing I've experienced in the realm of plant medicines is a lot of healing via ayahuasca, and a different degree mushrooms. But one thing I have not done is combo, which is the frog, I guess, poison, I guess,
Poison's a good word.
therapy. The poison's a good word. Yeah. So I think you two have some experience with that. Can we touch on that for a little bit, and what your experiences have been with that?
It's
Sure.
definitely healing. It's very healing.
Comes from a frog. They apply burns to the skin, and then rub the poison or apply the poison into the fresh burns, and then you purge a whole bunch. It is not a psychedelic. My experience.
It's called warrior medicine.
Warrior
Okay.
medicine.
So my experience was super intense. I passed out the 2 times that I've done it, and I didn't have a noticeable enough experience that I felt like it was something I wanted to continue with the struggles that I was having with it, or the discomfort versus feeling better. I mean, one of the things at the time I was kind of hoping that it would, when I was like, I'm kind of feeling like I'm going for a beer a little too often. And I've heard people say that this is something that could be help with with those kind of patterns and habits. And I felt like later in the day after doing it, I wanted a beer. You know, this is me in my skeptical place where I was not open to this, the depth of it. There could be subtleties that I'm just not in tune with.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's uh, deep. It's a very deep process. I'll speak to the combo part in a moment, but I feel like what you're speaking to essentially is in the realm of healing, whether it's doing a really deep experience like combo, or getting a really deep body work session, or acupuncture, or getting the circulation going. I like to consider it as like we have this stream running through us, right? And if there is debris that gets into the stream, then there's blockages, right? There is like clogged energy, clogged lymph, clogged just all kinds of different things that get stopped up in our physical bodies and our energetic bodies, right? And so when we can go in and do these little cleanups, right, clear out the debris, then things start to flow more. Right, Janus, you're speaking to the massage that you got where afterwards you're feeling lighter and you feel more clarity coming through about your certain life situations, right? It's like, well, it's like that practitioner came in and helped you clear some of those branches and the boulders that may have fallen into the flow of your energy. The combo is really powerful from the Amazon. It is a frog, yeah, the combo frog, and it basically, yeah, is used to help to clear and eradicate any density and toxicity in the body. It has been known to help with lots of different disorders, especially things that are like eczema and skin things that are getting the lymph out. It's helped
Mm.
with Lyme. There's lots of research now that how much it's been really helping people to clear toxicity from the body. And so from what I've experienced is that when you partake in this experience, that's this very ceremonial experience. It's not just like, oh yeah, somebody's just gonna give it to you, administer it to you. It's very held in reverence and sacredness. And the practitioner is usually a medicine person or a shaman that is able to hold that space for you to have a deeply transformational experience. And yes, it's really uncomfortable. I had the same experience, Halcyon. I was like, wait, I'm paying somebody to burn my skin so that way I purge. It's like, yeah, it's so intense. But what I found is a real profound level of lightness afterwards, right? Because it's like similar to like if you do a cleanse, right? You do a 3-day cleanse, 10-day cleanse, you do maybe a colonics, right? It's clearing, it's pulling things out that are ready to be released. And the combo is essentially that on a very deep mental, physical, emotional, spiritual way. It's really profound. Not for everybody, of course. And like you said, I'm not an expert. I've done it maybe 4 times. But I will say that it is an alternative healing modality that is becoming more available to people, because there is a lot of healing that is needed. And I feel like that's part of the reason why I love talking about this topic, because it feels like the alternative healing, and healing is an important part of our world. There's so much toxicity that we all navigate every single day, from drinking plastics to breathing in chemtrails to all the exhaust to social media. There's a lot of things that we're processing all the time, and it's important for us to find ways that we can cleanse our system and really stay in alignment to our natural body's biomagnetic field and just intelligence, right?
I think yeah, and that speaks to something else that came to mind for me, in that what Halcyon is talking about, which you're both talking about, I think is important to acknowledge that the skepticism that you might have about any sort of modality is healthy. You can definitely go a little too far with it, where you're not necessarily open to what it has to offer. But I think it's important to because you should have skepticism with Western accepted modalities as well. If you're talking to a surgeon who's gonna recommend surgery because that's what they do. It's like it might not always be the thing that you need. So it's important to get second opinions and get have that healthy skepticism no matter what avenue you're going down. And then it also, the other end of that spectrum is that you when it comes to the healing aspect of it, you got to want it. There's a lot of times we go into something, whether it's I've gone into a massage where I wasn't able to, I guess, fully relax, or I had just too much going on mentally and I just couldn't get myself to receive the benefits of that. And that's just like one with like massage. I've also gone into other areas, like whether it's a plant ceremony, where I just wasn't able to kind of let go and receive the benefits that this method had to offer. And I think it's important that we acknowledge, like, before we jump into something, it's like, okay, so you got to want it. You got to want to get that, what it is that you're thinking that you might be going for. Be like, okay, so I am open. I'm actually really open to receiving what there is here for me. It's like with HALCYON, your combo experience with like wanting to get past, let's say, the desire to have a beer or whatever. There's probably something outside of the whole combo experience that you needed to kind of process and let go of in order for that sort of like transition to work for you. I think all found ourselves in a position like that, of not being able to receive the thing that we're kind of looking for. So so there's all sorts of work to be done. We got to help that modality to get us to where we're looking to get to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's true really with any belief, including beliefs that are just in our minds. I mean, a placebo works because you believe that it's going to help you. And so if you don't believe something's going to help you, even if it is helping you, you're fighting it. So I think you're right, that there's a lot to be said for that, you being open to it and being on the same side as the healing and not fighting it.
Yeah.
I love that so much. And, I'm feeling sparked to check in with you guys about how your Burning Man experience has provided any insight into alternative healing. Because here we are, we're all longtime burners. This is a very common thread. I think a lot of you guys out there listening have been to Burning Man. It's obviously so much more than a party in the desert. It's not just all about music and dancing all night, but there's workshops and there's very deeply healing experiences out there. So, can either of you share any of your sparks of healing from being out on the playa?
Yeah, certainly. That's where I was introduced to a lot of the concepts that we're talking about today, and that we haven't even began to touch on today. It's been out there on the playa because, like you said, there's a lot on offer out there, and I actually had a couple of really good meditation sessions out there, believe it or not. In addition to all the stimulus that's out there, there are places where you can kind of sit and drop into meditation in a small group or one-on-one or in a larger group. And definitely getting, having that experience of sitting in meditation and having somebody kind of just do a guided meditation, sometimes along with another modality, like, so let's say sound healing, where somebody's, playing the singing bowls or playing the crystal bowls or like a harp or something along those lines that really drops you into this meditative state. And yeah, so that's my first experience with guided meditation, was out there and having some really profound experiences and being like, wow, there's something here, and feeling that lightness to come out of that. And one time I went to a sound meditation pretty hungover from the night before, and just lying there for an hour and having these bowls and other instruments played over me, definitely feeling like some sort of like processing whatever the toxicity or oxidants that were in my body, and coming out of that an hour feeling absolutely like recharged and rejuvenated. And the only difference was sitting and having some sound waves like wash over me. It's like, wow, okay, there's something to that as well. So yeah, Burning Man's a great place for that.
And you mentioned about you will find places or spaces where you can drop into things. And I think that idea of these safe spaces is one of the huge healing aspects that I witness at Burning Man, where there's so much that we have access to in ourselves, that we hold the reins on for fear of how it will be seen or judged in the default world. But when you have a space, whether it's a dome or an event, a meditation, a talk, and you're surrounded by people where you very quickly within that community space of feel safe, there's a real healing aspect to allowing, you know, a movement or words or thoughts to come out and know that you will be accepted for it. That radical inclusion, radical self-expression that is so embraced, that just being in a container that supports that, I think allows a ton of self-healing. It's not a modality, but it's actually, maybe there is like a safe space is a really beautiful tool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Set and setting is what you're talking about. Like the
Yeah.
environment, like getting that dialed in can bring, kind of allows these, positive results to happen.
Absolutely. And then we can relax, right? Because if the environment is not supportive or it doesn't feel safe, then we can't relax, right? And how do we let go of our skepticism if we're all like tight?
Mhm.
How can we actually allow the energy to flow, that stream to flow, if I don't feel relaxed and safe in my body?
So speaking of
Mhm.
tight, I just wanted to, in a personal level, like as we were talking a minute ago, I felt myself get all tight up, and I felt like I want to make sure. I wanted to, like, well, I'm not endorsing combo. I don't know. It was weird, this like skepticism or this like, but what's cool for me is that awareness that I was having in my body, that connecting to these thoughts and old patterns was a new thing for me. So like, okay, cool. I'm the fuddy-duddy skeptic in the room, but I'm also growing. Yay.
Amazing
Yeah.
awareness.
Yeah, and I think it's important to also acknowledge for anybody who's listening, we're not necessarily endorsing any one thing over the other or any one thing even on its own. It's just these are our experiences. This is what we have experienced with these various modalities. Your mileage may vary if you
Yep.
decide you want to try any of these out.
Yes, absolutely. Yep. And here we are. We are three friends that love getting together to just chat. This is like basically what you guys are getting to experience is a little window into the conversations that we get to have at a gathering. And it feels really good to just be inspired here, the three of us, and get a chance to share with you guys some of our own personal experiences on these different kinds of things. So,
So speaking of
yeah.
Mhm.
personal experiences, I'm curious, Betsy, as a practitioner, if you have experiences, with clients or with people that you're working with, anything that has been memorable or that just keeps you inspired to be on your path.
Oh my
Is that too
gosh,
big a
so
question?
many. How much time do we have? Um, so as I mentioned, I've been doing body work and healing work for almost 20 years, and I have seen so many different things and experiences. When I first started out, just like most practitioners, I worked at a spa, and it was very cookie cutter kind of spa like experience where they say, okay, when you work on a person, it's 55 minutes. You have to have 5 minutes on each leg, 5 minutes on each arm. You have 15 minutes on the back. Then you turn them over and you do this very specific protocol. And it was, it was a training that I was going through. And during that time, I was starting to feel some more intuition coming through. I was starting to notice certain things when I was working on people. It was much more than just this like physical experience. And so I started to incorporate a little bit of crystals into the space. I just started putting them around around the room when I would be working or underneath the table. And I noticed people starting to have these deeper experiences. And I think one of the first times I was working at the spa. I realized there was something much more. So I had this stranger come in, like not uncommon. I had lots of different people that I had never met and probably will never see again come in. This guy had this profoundly healing experience, like just so much energy moving. He was having all these insights. He was getting just like so many deep breaths and just like opening and unlocking something. And I wasn't doing anything too different, except for one thing that I really noticed was the deep level of presence that I was able to access because of his receptivity, right? Sometimes people come in and they, like you guys were talking about, or maybe just kind of like blocked to receiving in their head, kind of just like not really fully present. Well, this guy was really present. He was ready for it. He was open. He was receiving, which then that also helped me open to be even more present, right? And so by the end of the session, we both were like, wow, that was absolutely beautiful. That felt like miracles just happened in the last hour. And so that was the catalyst for me to start my own practice. So when I started to see that there was so much more available and we can really explore these different realms of the modalities and kind of get out of that cookie cutter. And then once I started to have my own practice, so I can incorporate sound healing and aromatherapy and really adjust each session per person and then infuse intention into the sessions, that's when everything started to change. Um, some of the sessions that I've seen people go through, whether it is a one-time session or working with me for many, many sessions, just seeing so much beautiful growth and evolution and personal insight. And I feel like, I could go into some of these, but I feel like the spark that I want to share is really the realization that, when we are holding a sacred space for somebody to have a transformational experience, as a healer, we're not healing anyone. Right. I used to think that when, as this young thing, like, oh, I'm going to be a healer. I'm going to heal people. Um, but I quickly started to realize, like, oh, no, 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 we're all our own healers, right? We're each here. We have these abilities to heal ourselves. And a skilled practitioner creates a sacred space for each person to have their own healing, right? And so I have just loved getting to create those beautiful spaces for people to come into my embrace and into this environment to simply be held and to witness these transformations that people are having. And so, yeah, I love that, to be able to hold a sacred space for somebody and witness
Hmm.
their healing rather than healing them.
That's beautiful.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So, one thing that I've experienced with body work, and it's kind of what Betsy is speaking to. I've had all sorts of different modalities when it comes to things like massage, and I found, looking back on it, I found that the best results I've gotten, or the longest lasting results I've gotten, are from practitioners who have a strong intuitive practice. So that they don't just do Swedish or shiatsu or any other, or sports massage, um, types of modalities. That there's a strong intuitive practice where it's like, okay, I'm just going to go with the flow and see how it feels. Those are the ones that have really got me. That it just, they're going to like, okay, I'm just going to put my hands on you, start working, and see what happens, see where it goes. And which sounds like okay, well, that's an odd way to go about it, but it is. Those are far and away my best sessions have been the ones that there is an intuitive aspect to the practitioner, and they're very upfront about that as well. So those have been my good ones. And that was also when I first had an experience with Reiki, which is something, it's like an energy work practice that gets a lot of eye rolls from a lot of people. Even like a lot of my friends are like, they're a Reiki practitioner. Ooh. But I had a session where that was incorporated without kind of really telling me. And so she was just like moving some stuff, and she had her hands over me, but it really felt like her hands were on me and really doing some moving some stuff around, and I could feel them moving. And it was like my first experience with that. And I was like, what is that? Oh my gosh, what is happening back there? And coming out and it feeling so good afterwards. I'm like, what were you doing like at the last tail end of that? She's like, oh, that was Reiki and so on and so forth. She's like, I wasn't really touching you. I'm like, what do you mean you weren't touching me? I totally felt. She's like, no, that's like the last 10 minutes was really just my hands over you, not on you. And
Mhm.
I didn't believe it at first, but then after talking to her, I thought, oh, okay, I guess so. But having that first experience of mine without knowing it was coming kind of opened up my eyes so that people, when people were like, "Oh, I'm a Reiki practitioner," I was like, "Well, I actually have some experience with that, and it felt legit to me." So that kind of opened me up to the idea of energy work, and
Mhm.
that was a a functional modality, like a real practice that people that would get would and could get people to experience various levels of healing. So yeah, that was a good thing through that's something else worth looking into.
Yeah, I love Reiki. Reiki is you know what Reiki actually means? Spiritual energy.
Mm,
That's it. We all have
yeah.
access to spiritual energy. We are spiritual energy. And so, yeah, when
Mm,
a practitioner is trained in how to move that spiritual energy, that it's so powerful. And then the other modality that I'll speak to that is, I guess, considered alternative healing is craniosacral. Craniosacral is really such a beautiful modality. It's very light touch. So oftentimes when you receive a session, it doesn't even feel like they're doing anything because you're 5 grams of pressure of the hands on the body, and it's working with the cerebral spinal fluid that basically is a fluid that goes around every nerve in our body. It protects our nervous system and our spinal cord, and it is this like crystalline liquid that moves through our body, and it's working with that on a very, very subtle level. I love that so much, whether I'm receiving it or giving craniosacral. It is so powerful to be able to tune into a deep space of relaxation and unwinding and watch how the cranial bones and the spine and the sacrum, like it's just all interconnected. It is, if you haven't experienced cranial sacral, I highly recommend it for just nervous system renewal, for balance, for just restoration. It's one of my favorites.
yeah. And correct me if I'm wrong, isn't that a lot of like pressure and work, let's say on the back of the skull, the back of the neck, or is it kind of all up and down the spine? Or
It's
is it
all over
everywhere?
the whole body.
Okay.
It's really like all, I mean, depending on the modality, which type you do, but the craniosacral is throughout the entire body. The main focus is on the head and the cranium, working on
Hmm.
the sutures of the skull. The sutures are where the bones come together on the skull. And
Hmm.
so, yeah, there's going to be some points that are touched. There's not much pressure though. You might feel like if you have had the occipital hold where there's some fingers on the back of your
Mm,
neck, that feels like probably the most amount of pressure that you'll get in the craniosacral session. But the
okay.
rest is really light. Mhm.
Interesting. So what's the type where they get their fingers in your mouth and they
Rolfing,
like
Rolfing.
Ooh,
no,
rolfing in the mouth. Oh, I
no,
don't know
not
about that. No.
no. Rolfing is
Oh,
when you're like bouncing on the massage table. Like there's a lot of forearm work and just
oh, I
it's like
got
a full
Rolfed and there
body
was
ride.
fingers in my nose, there was fingers all up in my mouth. That was
Yeah,
intense. Yeah,
you can
Really?
get
yeah.
rolfing is basically like structural integration that is like putting
Oh
bones
wow.
in different places. Like it helps you get into alignment. Rolfing
Huh.
is a very, very deep
Mm,
modality where the practitioner, yeah, will push your muscles and like press in different ways to really help to adjust your structure, right? So I'm not
mhm.
surprised that you had a practitioner do it in your mouth if they were trying to adjust certain things in your neck
Yeah, I
and your
haven't
head.
heard of
Then
that. That's
then
wild.
again, it was just a guy that I met whose name was Ralph, and he was in an alley. So maybe it wasn't this. Maybe this is something
Was it at
different.
Burning Man?
Yeah, it was
I don't
just. Oh yeah,
know. If
you
it
know
was
what?
at Burning
Now that
Man.
you mentioned it, it was a guy named Ralph who just put his hands in my mouth.
Yeah.
I take it back. You're
Yeah,
right. You're right.
Yeah,
Oh, got
Ralphing.
it. Ralph.
Yeah. Watch out for Ralphing.
Yeah.
So,
It was a while
yeah.
ago. Um,
Hmm.
well,
Hmm.
I feel like you guys have a lot to share, but maybe we should wind up and figure out what a spark that we'd like to leave people with. I'd like to leave with the idea of if you are identifying with my elements of skepticism, that I'm really benefited from talking to people I trust and having them share their experiences. Like as I've listened to you two tell these firsthand experiences of really beautiful experiences with crystals or with Reiki, that helps me to bypass old stories of eye rolling or whatever, and it makes me really want to open up And so I'm I'm appreciate these stories, and I appreciate the getting to really be open to other people's experience, and also and reminding myself that my own thoughts are in the way of it. And so that's my final spark.
Hmm.
How about you, Janus?
I'm reminded of a saying, and this is not to belittle anybody's very real journeys into healing. Like there's we've all experienced, physical ailments, emotional ailments that are very real. That said, there is a saying that does resonate with me, in that the only thing that needs to be healed within us is the belief that we are not already whole.
Hmm.
So getting, so this journey of healing that we're all on, it's important to get to a place where you realize, like, we're not broken, but we all could use a tune up or an adjustment, or a realignment. And there's ways to go into that. So really, really dropping the idea that we are like these broken individuals, that we need to fix ourselves. It's like, no, we can, just like a vehicle, just like a car, sometimes needs a tune-up, needs an oil change, needs all sorts of procedures to kind of keep it functioning. Our bodies are the same, our emotional bodies are the same as well. So going into it with an idea like, okay, just a little tune-up, sometimes it's a major tune-up, but there's nothing wrong with feeling like we need these things or that we would benefit from these things. So really going into it with a positive mindset, and having skepticism, sure, but or not but and realizing like there's nothing wrong with needing a little tune up on occasion, sometimes a major tune up. Yeah.
Hmm. I'll just share a spark for me of how grateful I am that we live at a time where there is so much accessibility to many, many, many different types of alternative healing modalities, right? Sound healing, for example, is becoming much more recognized, much more available, much more just a part of the world that we live in, right? Sound healing, maybe 10 years ago even, was so like, what's that? Now you can see them, you can see a sound bath and sound healing. Sound healing is even incorporated into some hospitals now,
Mm.
which is just amazing. And I just really want to, yeah, celebrate that we, with our healthy skepticism, we have opportunities to try so many different things to support our well-being, right? And so, yeah, I love the place that we live in Southern California. There happens to be many alternative healing modalities, but I see more and more available out there in the world, and it's a hot topic. So, yeah, let's keep our systems cleansed, cleared, purified, keep that stream running, right? Receiving support from practitioners and from workshops and from these opportunities to help to remove the debris from our fields, mind, body, spirit.
Hmm.
And speaking of
Wonderful.
that, we happen to have a practitioner among us. So, Betsy, how could people find you and get more in tune with the tools that you offer?
Oh, thank you so much, Halcyon. Yeah, I love getting to help people to get into greater states of alignment within themselves, mind, body, spirit. I use the Power Affirmation Journal as a foundation for helping to reprogram limiting beliefs. And I do the Power Affirmation Virtual Group, which basically helps people to not only reprogram limiting beliefs, but also to get into daily habits that support feeling really good. So, embodiment practices, spiritual practices, mindset practices, so that way we can have sustainable happiness. And then also, I work with people one on one virtually and do Dharma coaching as well as in person body work, healing work, energy work, and just a lot of other wonderful ways to help to create beautiful practices that help us feel good. Yep, you can check
Yeah.
me out, poweraffirmation.com, and Sparked is the discount code. And I also created a free gift for you guys. So affirmations are my jam. I love affirmations. Repetition helps so much. And so if you guys want to check it out, and this is in the show notes, there's a free download of an audio affirmation I created for you guys.
Yay, lucky
Cool.
us.
Yeah, fantastic.
What about you, Yunus?
So As I mentioned at the start of the show, I am the founder of a company called NuWorld Nutritionals, which is spelled NU World Nutritionals. And our main product is a microdose product that is mushroom-based and allows people to access a healthy state of mind. It's good for treating symptoms of anxiety, depression, PTSD, ADHD, anything neurological, mental based, which is linked to emotional. You can get some good benefits with some solid nutrition, and that's what the product is designed to do. So, and getting a lot of good results with people from elderly all the way down to teenagers. It's created initially for my own well-being, but being able to put that out in the world has gotten some really good results with people. So I'm happy to say that. And also offering a discount code for our products on the website, which is nuworldnutritionals.com. Use the discount code SPARKED for 10% off of all of our products.
Yay. And I have a few books available. I do daily gratitude gatherings in Zoom that you are invited to. Those are free. And I produce t-shirts with adorable phrases like love more, fear less on them. And you can find all of those links at johnstin.com. Betsy, would you close us out with an affirmation?
Yes, I love it. What a beautiful conversation. Thank you guys. So let's close it out. Eyes closed if you like. Deep breath. I am healthy, vital, and whole. Repeating this affirmation, I am healthy, vital, and whole. 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 If you like, you can let that affirmation just be on repeat in your mind. Sing it, say it, let it fuel your day. I am healthy, vital, and whole. And then watch yourself just rise and rise and rise and feel great. Stay sparked out there, you guys. Thanks for listening. Are you guys good with me to like kind of start us off with that question?
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. I love you guys.
Love you too.
I'm so grateful to be here.
Love you too, Betsy. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
And I love you too, Halcyon.
I love you too.
All right.
All right.